Welcome to toy-polloi.
Hello and welcome to another video from toy-polloi, and today we're going to be taking a look at the R2-D2 with pop-up lightsabers that have recently been produced by Chris Smith, formerly of Smith Lord Creations. As you can see here, there are 5 different versions of this figure available because this version of R2-D2 was released in so many different ways. On the left we have the Power of the Force version of the pop-up R2-D2. In the middle we have the Uzay version that was released in Turkey. On the right we have one of the Glasslite versions from Brazil, and then these bottom two are different versions of the Star Wars Droids edition of R2-D2. We have the Kenner version and again the Glasslite version here. So there's a lot to go through, so I'm just going to get straight on and we'll go through each figure and card individually. First up we have the Power of the Force version, which is the one that sort of most people would be interested to see. Now this is the one that was released late in the line for Kenner's run of Star Wars figures, and Chris has managed to reproduce this with a great deal of sort of consistency with how the original ones look. As you can see, this is how the card would have come back in the day. It comes with a collector's coin and you get the figure with the pop-up lightsaber in the top of it there. Now, as I've mentioned before, the quality of the cards that Chris manages to produce are really nice. They have the same sort of quality of card stock and the images are really sort of crystal clear, nice and sharp. It just looks like a traditional Star Wars card, something that you remember getting back in the sort of 70s and early 80s. And on the back of it you can see that this is a 92 back card. So it has all the details for all the other figures you could have collected and the sort of mail away coins and what other collector's coins that you could have got there. So it's a very nice sort of recreation of these original cards. I do like the way this feels. Now let's take a closer look at the figure, and you can see again this is a lovely sort of version of R2-D2. The chrome is so crisp and sort of sparkly and shiny. I'm going to bring in my original R2-D2 here. So this is my pop-up one. You can see the chrome on that is actually a very good match. In fact, the paint detailing on the top of this is superb. I'm always impressed at how close he manages to get with this sort of paintwork, because the chrome is something that's quite hard to recreate, and even getting the paint on top of it, it does match really nicely. And you can see the sticker again is a very good recreation of the original stickers. My one here obviously has seen a little bit of play in action, so it's a little bit faded and a little bit sort of yellowed, but you can see there Chris's copy is a lovely sort of crisp and clear version of that old sticker. If we turn it underneath you can see again all the details, and even the screw inside it looks pretty similar to that. So this is going to be a pride of place in my collection, because this is a card I don't actually have, and I do love original R2-D2, so that's a very nice one. Let's take a look at some of the other versions of this R2-D2 that have been produced. The Droids version of this figure is one that I've always wanted to have in my collection, but I've never actually sort of managed to find one. So this again, it's the same basic figure as the other one, but the dome is no longer chromed, it's just done in a flat sort of plastic, and the sticker has been modified to make it look like it did in the cartoon series. But with these figures, if you rotate the head you can see a little lightsaber pops up and you get the nice clicking action. So you can rotate that around, you can see, and that is the lightsaber. It's a nice recreation of one of the originals there. So we can pop that back in. And as you can see, this is available on 2 different cards, because on the right here we have what most people would sort of know as the Kenner version of the Droids figure. Again, this comes with a collector's coin, but these are gold for the Droid series, and the figure sits in front of a nice piece of sort of artwork taken from the cartoon series. If we turn it over, you can see the pictures of the other figures that would have been available in this line, and again this is a sort of nice recreation of the card. The card stock is a nice weight to it, and you can see here at the bottom it's clearly marked as a Smith Lord creation, so you shouldn't be confused between this and an original if you are worried about that. But this figure was also released by Glasslite in Brazil, and so here they have also created the Glasslite version of the card. Again, similar sort of shots from the show. The figure does differ slightly just because the stickers that they used between the 2 companies are slightly different. So if I show you that here, you can see the panelling on the front of the Glasslite one is slightly sort of larger than the one that's on the Kenner version. The loose figure that Chris sent over to me is actually the Glasslite version, so you can see here the sticker is just that little bit larger. And we'll turn the Glasslite card over so you can see on the back. Again, it's got a nice sort of load of photos and images of the other figures that you would have had in the line. And again on the bottom it's clearly marked as Smith Lord Creations. But that's a lovely card. It's a slightly bigger piece of card. I didn't realise that the cards were slightly different, but obviously the Glasslite ones came on a slightly larger piece of card there. But those are really nice and they do look excellent. And as I say, this figure just feels absolutely sort of spot on. It really does feel like the figures that you would have had at the time. It's got a nice weight to it, a nice sturdiness to it. If I turn this over, you can see same sort of screw in the bottom there to hold everything together. I might actually take one of these apart at the end just so I can show you the construction of them. We can see what it looks like inside. It's always interesting to see how these things have been produced. And these were very simple figures back in the day. It's just a screw and a little, as you rotate the head, it clicks a bit of plastic inside. But I might take one of those apart just so you can have a look and see how well the sort of recreation has gone and how sort of close to the originals that they managed to make them. You can actually see as well, possibly not on camera, but if you look right down inside the barrel of R2 there, it says SLC. That's where the copyright information originally would have been, but that's been replaced with SLC, so it's quite clear to see that this is not an original figure. Now there was also a Glasslite version of the sort of standard R2-D2 release, but that does have a slight difference to that, because if we look at the original figure here, you can see it has a nice shiny chrome head, but when Glasslite came to reproduce this figure, they went with a sort of more standard, almost spray paint look of silver onto the top of the figure. The sticker is exactly the same as the Kenner version, but the top of it has a silvery finish, and the lightsaber is not quite as sort of well, it's got a little bit of transparency going on to it. It's a little bit sort of cheaply produced, I would guess, but Chris has managed to recreate that perfectly here. So you have the figure, which looks, you know, really nice. Again, nice paint scheme, even though this is not chrome now, but just silver paint. The way it's been finished is lovely, and the paint application on top of that to get the paneling just looks perfect. And you can take a closer look at the sticker there. There's a slight difference in paint application actually between these figures and the original one that you get on this card. You can see there's an extra bit of blue painted onto the legs there. So if I show you the original version, so the Glasslite version just has an extra bit of blue there, slightly darker paint on that as well, but again it just feels lovely, it just feels the right sort of weight. And the carded version again looks excellent. The front of it shows you a few shots from the movies and a little bit of sort of space action going on there, and if we turn it over, a bit more information on the back, all in Spanish, so I can't actually read that, but again at the bottom it says Smith Lord Creation, so you can see that it's obviously a reproduction, and there's the Glasslite logo. But it's a very nice card, good weight to it, really feels nice. It's not one I ever thought I would sort of see sort of in person, so it's nice to have this as a sort of way to display the figure. And they do look very nice displayed like this, or even loose, so depends on how you want to display your figures as how you should go about getting them. And the final figure in this lot is the Uzay or Uzay version that was produced in Turkey. Now these figures were produced a little bit sort of more cheaply than the sort of Kenner and the Glasslite version, so Chris has managed to recreate that in, you know, amazing skill really, because you can see here that the sticker is done in such a way that it does look like a little bit of a cheaper print, and even the paint application on the head has made it look like it's a little bit of a cheaper sort of way of being produced. And you can see here the top of the lightsaber has got a little red dot on it, just like it does in the photo. And if I tip this figure over, you can see here that that's exactly right. You've got a little bit of paint added to the top of the lightsaber that pops out. So he's done a really nice job of recreating, you know, what was supposed to be a little bit of a, it's almost a bit of a knockoff sort of cheap version of the figure, but that works really well. You'll notice also that the image on the card is actually reversed, and that's how it was sort of back in the day. So this figure is actually a mirror image of how the figure should be. The lightsaber's on the wrong side and all the panels on the front here are the other way around, but that is correct to how this figure was originally produced. We'll turn the card over again. You can see it's quite a simple back to it, just lots of images and the names, but with a sort of Turkish take on them. So it's not Stormtrooper, it's the Imperial Stormtrooper, and the Stormtrooper there, and Darth Vader. So all sort of strange versions of the names, but you know what they are just from the images. So again, that's a nice sort of recreation of that vintage Turkish style Uzay card. I certainly can't resist taking one of these figures apart just to see how it's constructed and see how well it matches the original. So I'm just going to remove the lightsaber there of this one, and we can put the screwdriver in just to undo the screw at the bottom. Like so. That screw looks much like an original one. It's got the same sort of enlarged sort of surface there to make it hold everything in place. Let's remove this so we can take the top out. You can see it has the clicker in place, and that is the little plastic clicker that runs around and makes the clicking noise. That's the little area that holds the legs in. And we can take the legs out just to have a look at those. Yeah, this is all pretty much exactly how the originals was constructed. I think it's very, very close indeed. I'll just see if I can show you up inside R2's body so you can see with it where it says SLC. It's just on the top there. It's very hard to get the light to shine on it, but it says SLC where the Lucasfilm copyright would have been. But yeah, as you can see, this is exactly how the original figures are constructed. I'm going to put this one back together so that it can go back on display, but always interesting just to see how these figures are made. And I always like the fact that these are so close to the originals, the way it's been sort of reproduced. It's always fascinating to me how they can take these old figures and reproduce them so closely to the originals when Hasbro seems to have such a problem when they do it. It's obviously a knack and a skill to it that Hasbro hasn't quite managed to sort of grasp at the moment, but there we go. That's how the figures are constructed, and it's very interesting always to see that. All these figures are available either carded or loose. Chris very kindly sent me sort of a full set of the carded ones and a couple of the loose ones just so I could show you how good the quality on them was, and they are absolutely lovely. I'll be putting links in the description to where you can get these from, so make sure and check those out. And there is one more figure that I need to show you, but that will be in a separate video because I'm classing it as more of a custom. It's made from the same moulds, but it is a custom figure, and I think that deserves a video of its own. So make sure and check the links in the description if you want to get yourself some of these figures, and thanks for watching.
Thanks for watching toy-polloi. Subscribe for more great videos. You can also follow toy-polloi on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram.